Good afternoon, everyone. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. Ongoing issues with the Postal Service. And if you've been paying attention to the videos I put out lately, this has been going on for a couple months as it relates to tender of an instrument offered in formation of contract by the post office through the Postal Service as its registered agent, and therefore the dishonor of the acceptance of the conditions placed on that instrument as it relates to negotiations have been declined and refused twice. And through that, it creates a federal investigation because it's related to federal property known as inland marine installations under Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, needful places in buildings requiring titles. Now, it doesn't say requiring titles in that, but that's how they're identified, is there's a title. That title is attached to a number. The title of the street right out in front of you is known as a name. It's still a title. It's the entitlement with its bonding number showing that there's an interlocal agreement between the post office and the municipality. It's the municipality that creates the street name. The post office that bonds it with a number. The name that one uses with that address is considered a registered or an agent of some sort through residency. The term resident in their code, under the customs code, says that no person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. So, through these service requests for that International Enterprise Payment System account and the issues of the post office in their offers not being accepted, like I said, creates that international or that federal investigation. And twice now they closed the accounting, saying that it was resolved in their administrative offices and not the federal. So if it's a federal investigation, I'm supposed to deal with the federal people, which is the Office of Inspector General and the Board of Governors, which is what they instructed me to do when I talked to them on the phone. So when I made my writing and went down to the post office today to send it as a insured piece, they refused me international mail service because they said it was going to Washington, D.C., and that's domestic. I'm not. I am foreign. And because I am foreign, that itself expresses that it is international and not domestic. This is the very foundational principle that they're missing as it relates to money or its equivalent. If the money is known as domestic and it's got an equivalent in a foreign jurisdiction, then it comes from that foreign jurisdiction into the domestic system. That's international communications. So again, it goes to the competencies of comprehending the language, because I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. So when I was speaking to Chase down at the local post office in a consensual communication, trying to inform him of what's going on, and he still refused to accept the fact that if I request as a customer international mailing, That's my discernment. And he's not to make a legal determination and say, well, it's domestic. And that's what they're doing. They're making a legal determination based on the terminology that they don't understand. So Chase tried to make a legal determination and say that I couldn't send it international mail, which is what would securitize the insurance part of it for up to $200. That's the part they didn't want me to access. They wanted me to pay $15 to send it. Domestic, without insurance. Not going to do it. So, we turn around and come back. When they called the police, I left. There's a bench warrant, a false bench warrant out. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. So I got back home and had to borrow money to turn my phone on, just so I could call the post office service request again, because they closed the account saying it was resolved when it wasn't. 18 U.S.C. 1519. Destruction, alteration, falsification. Anybody altering a record, I created by saying it was resolved when I didn't. I opened the accounting. I'm the one that gets to close it, not them. They can't go to the law department and have their law department make a legal determination that isn't there, because they didn't give the law department the form that I filled out with the other terms on it. So therefore, they couldn't internally fully investigate it. That's why I was instructed to contact the Board of Governors and the Office of Inspector General and communicate with them. So when I went down there, they denied me my communication. See, when I make a determination as a customer to do an international mail, they're just supposed to take that as a directive. And if the system kicks it out, then it's the system's fault. The system kicks it out for a reason, and that relates the fault to me and not them. But if they're denying it, then it's their fault because it never gets entered into the system. So then when he calls the police and he says, yeah, I have a sovereign citizen down here. See, he took the statement that I made. I'm not a United States citizen, and I am not a resident of the state, and converted that and made a false entry into a police record saying that he had a sovereign citizen. And again, I beg anyone to define sovereign citizen competently. So I got done calling the Postal Service. And when I was online, I asked the guy if I could get the new service request number. So after I explained to him about the opening and closing, I needed this is opening a new service request. He kindly put me back to the original request under number 533374771 that was already closed, and escalated it up the line. So I'm waiting for a call back from them on this issue that is related to the prior issues that are related to the International Enterprise Payment System account in the trust name, expressing the trust. And that trust is not the same as the United States or the states and any interlocal agreements with the municipality and the federal government. None. It's a private trust. And that's what they're violating. So, back to the police call, when they called the local policy enforcement. First of all, I told you I left because they've got a bench warrant out there that they're going to be glad to arrest me on. So, after I got done with the call with the post office, I called the mayor. So, I'm expecting a call from the upline from the post office. And of course, the mayor was in a meeting, so I'm expecting a call back from him. But I left a diligent note of the events with Brittany. So, what it is is that interlocal agreement with the post office that they're supposed to have in order to be able to delegate the federal exclusive jurisdiction to the local municipality so they can take care of it instead of hassling postal workers to take care of it at the local level. But again, that's all local administration and not international judicial determinations. So we're going to look at a couple things. As it relates to international judicial assistance. We look at obtaining evidence. U.S. Department of State. That's the international department. Remember our definition yesterday of state? U.S. Department of State, and state is Washington, D.C. And we're talking about the Hague Conventions. The text, the explanatory report, as it goes for declarations, summaries, and finals, as it relates to judgments. And they talk about preparation of letters rogatory. Many people hear about the letters rogatory. Hague Evidence Convention bibliography, that's as in the Bible. Bibliography is the letter of the word, the letters of the law, the words in a book. Hague Evidence Convention country status table. See, it's about the status report, the statistics. And there's a link on the preparation of letters rogatory. And here, we're going to talk about Waterloo, Local 451, P.O. Box 2071, Waterloo, Iowa, as it relates to the interlocal people involved. President Kimberly Carroll, Vice President Steward, Director William Bill Henriksen, Secretary, the one that keeps the secrets, Jack Talcott, Lisa Henriksen. I wonder if they're related, William and Lisa. Treasurer Robert Bob Dew II. Trustees Tammy Prine, Dale Cunningham, Jody Anusick, Dave Holly. Clerk Craft stewards. So it is the judicial interlocal agreement. We, the Postal Workers of America, the Labor Union of America, Postal Union, Universal Postal Union. Do you see the connection? It's a labor union, Postal Workers of America, in order to form a more perfect union straight from the preamble of the Constitution of the United States. Has their own constitution. As it relates to the local memorandum of understanding, this one here is 2006 to 2010. So it's not valid. So I kept looking. And we come up with 2021 to 2024 APU. American Postal Workers Union, United States Postal Service, collective bargaining agreement. Like I said, they are collectors. They are collecting revenue, just like the police under soft martial law or full martial law. Martial law chiefly affects the police and collection of public revenue and taxes for the expelled government or for the invader, its army, its efficiency, the efficiency of its army, its operations, and its safety. It's a military demand. It's a military order. Okay? Under Iowa Fields of Opportunities, Iowa Council 61, master contract for the following bargaining unit. Again, it is not United States, it's United States in regards to public safety. And it expires June 30th of 2023. And this is the master contract for the bargaining unit known as a bargaining agreement for collection of the sweat equity of one's labor. I hope everybody's following along so far. Why? Okay, Jeremiah 1:5. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou was cast from the womb, I sanctified and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations, not in the nations. And therefore, if you take upon the nationality for the profit, Profit, of a man, you are giving up your labor, your sweat labor for that paperwork. Why would you do that? When you were already ordained and sanctified, then take upon a nation's ordinance so they can sanction you. It doesn't follow reason and logic. I cannot help you do that. That is not what I know of. What I know of that system says it's all false. So why would you enter false data? Did you know under 18 USC 1519, entering false data elements is a penalty up to 20 years in prison? Why are you doing that? And I don't care if it's in the Netherlands or America. Those are trademarks. The law is uniform throughout all jurisdictions. So let's go on to the next one. Remember I told you those post offices are inland marine installations? And it says military police authority over civilians. They look like police, they act like police, but are they police? Military police have no statutory authority to arrest civilians on military installations. And often the courts have strained logic to uphold the necessity to maintain order. A sample statute is proposed. Proposed, future positioned. It's positioned in the future that it's expected that this will take hold, but it has no hold yet. It has no holding. It has no standing. Historically, Congress has been reluctant to pass a law giving military police the right to arrest civilians because the fear of military authority, which was engaged during colonial times, is still strong. As a result, existing manuals urge military law enforcement officers to seek guidance from a judge advocate anytime a situation involving a civilian arises. And instead of calling a judge advocate, the dumbass called the local police with no active current interlocal agreement with the municipality. But the judge advocate has little legal theory and few court precedents to rely on. Well, I'm going to tell you that Constitution was already decided and it is relied on. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17. Needful places and buildings. Again, the municipal street name that is securitized by its bonding number through a postal agreement. And then everybody signs up to be a resident saying they're an agent of one or the other. Basically, military police arrests are in the same legal category as citizens' arrest or arrest by postal inspectors or customs officials. Basically, military police arrests are in the same legal category as citizens' arrests or arrests by postal inspectors or customs officials. So I want to see the federal delegation of powers to a local municipal police officer saying they have a right to violate the international, the ICCR, International Convention on ICRC, International Convention on Red Cross. That's the humanitarian laws as a sister set for the military laws, the Lieber Code, as it relates to civilians. The courts have upheld their authority to maintain order on a military installation or on a military, installation, but have strictly maintained the soldier's obligation to observe the Fourth Amendment protections. So it is consistent with Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 as a needful place or building for what they call Fourth Amendment protections, and they are not amendments, folks. Competencies are important. They are the Bill of Rights, and it is the fourth article of that Bill of Rights. Language is specific. Some courts have held that civilians submit themselves to search on a base when signs warn the military police may search cars and barracks. But others have said that the base commander's order to search constitutes a search warrant within the meaning of the Fourth Amendment. In the Fifth Amendment, that warrant can only be issued by a requisition, meaning it is required, it is deemed necessary by the local board within its jurisdiction. And it can only be taken for that military necessity under Article 10 of the Lieber Code, which chiefly affects the police and the collection of public revenues and taxes for the expelled government or the invader, its army, its safety, its efficiency, and its operations. And it must be compensated. However, the existing confusion leaves military police with no clear guidelines and renders them liable to tort action. A statute to grant appropriate, as in appropriation of funds, in that grant authority to military personnel and allow effective protections of Fourth Amendment's right is proposed, and allow effective protection of Fourth Amendment. So as they're stating, there is no effective protection of the Fourth Amendment rights by the military, stating that the military is confused. The existing confusion leaves the military incompetent. The discussion contains legal citations, footnotes, and references. And you can go through here and look. And I'll post this link when I edit this. I want to take a break and remind everybody, please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on Hecklebus, get over to El Perro and do the same. And if you're on El Perro, get over to Hecklebus. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Get this information out so people can quit being confused. There are PayPal links down in the details below. When I get done with this video, I'll edit so that they'll be in there. Feel free to hit that one of those PayPal buttons to share some love. Otherwise, I don't really give a fuck. I'm not dependent on the fiat currency like everybody else, that fiat military currency, because that's the confusion. I'm not the one confused. Let's look at the next one. Postal Service, United States Postal Service, organization and administration, conduct on postal fraud property. Conduct. Your voice is a duct. It is an airway. So with the airways, you create in voice your directive. And then it can be purported, reported, recorded, however they want to do it. But as it is, I already know what I'm talking about, so I can just say it again anytime and as many times as you want. You can write it down if you want. Conduct on postal property. Applicability. This section applies to real property. All real property. Under the charge. Charge! It is a military operation, people. And control of the Postal Service to all tenant agencies. So by applying for that rental agreement as a tenant, and you put down the legal name, posing as the agent, posing and posting as the agent. You are the poster. You did post it, not them. You told them to. That was your directive. Or you wrote it down on their application that they offered you information of contract and you just didn't know it was a contract. And all persons entering. Control and entry. Like I said, that's the legal title. Legal title relates to control and entry. Equitable title relates to possession and use. In or on such property. In or on such property. And again, that property is the paperwork. UCC 3-402, the authorized representative giving an unambiguous signature on the instrument is therefore not liable for the person named in the instrument. And that is the instrumentality of the government, is their paperwork. And when you go to jail and they try to discharge you, but say that you are required to fill out the paperwork known as release paperwork. This section shall be posted. Collection of Article 1, Section 3, Clause 1, Congress shall lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, and kept posted at a conspicuous place on all such property. This section applies to all real property, and that piece of paper is real property, and yet it wasn't posted on that real property nor in that real property. Known as shadow paper. This section shall not apply to any portions of real property owned or leased or released. See, that address is a re-venue of the federal venue so that the post office can enter onto the land to make his or her delivery because you put the post box on the house and attached a number either to the box or the house. You big dummy corporations. By the Postal Service. Owned or leased by the Postal Service. And again, it's the post office that has the Postal Service Realty Trust, Inc. And it's an agreement with the Securities Exchange Commission as a real estate investment trust involving all real property that are leased or subleased by the Postal Service to private tenants for their exclusive use. So we have exclusive federal jurisdiction through a lease or sublease by the Postal Service to private tenants for their exclusive use. So let's talk about the title of entry, which refers to legal rights to control and disposition of property, the taking of property, as well as the legal evidence of a person's ownership rights in property. You are not the person. What about the man, the living soul? What about his equitable rights of possession and use rather than control and entry for disposition? I'm very disgusted that the discussions aren't being had appropriately or accordingly. They are not being accommodated through accord and satisfaction by use of instrument. That's right. They do not have policy. The local policy enforcement does not have jurisdiction on postal property, except for the fact that the mayor leased property, real property, from the Postal Service under the Real Estate Investment Trust as an investor so they could promulgate their municipal courts in association with the district courts for the court registry investment system by taking last names and converting them to firm names as investors. You don't sue, you negotiate. Filing a suit. You don't put on the armor of another man by filing a suit and going into court all dressed up in a nice suit. You take upon the full armor of God and you profit unto the nations by speaking for God as an ambassador of God through diplomatic channels of notice, no temptation. I'm not here to be tempted by your illicit language. Ill I see it. It's a spell. I am not spellbound. You have nothing that can bind me to your words. A man is bound by his own words, not someone else's. So anyway, as I said, I contacted both the mayor and the post office, again, the Postal Service, through the telephone. So I'm expecting a call back from both of them. And like I said last night, we're coming up on August 20th. In 10 days, the known birth date of the legal fiction known as Keith. And on the 24th, 4 days later, will be the total of 7 years since this actually started within those administrative courts with the false accusation of a sovereign citizen at that time. And the false presentation of possession of marijuana and subsequent charges. So let's look at this. It can also refer to the various types of titles, such as clear title, defective title, and marketable title. So when we talk about settlement of the estate and clearing the accounts, what we're doing is we're clearing the accounting of the title, noting that the entitlement was entered in error. We are not supposed to take upon entitlement. That's for persons. So that title appropriately belongs in the hands of the Postal Service for their entry and control as a military establishment, making sure that if there's any malfeasance of trust, malfeasance of office during the collection of public revenue and taxes for the Army and its purposes, then they can't do so against a private tenant unless the Postal Service has an agreement of a lease or a sublease. So keep filling out those DS-11s. Keep filling out those address changes. Keep filling out that you are a resident, and they'll be glad to take every dime you want to hand them as evidence that you are falsifying a resident when that resident presence deemed necessary by the board never occurred. You are not, in fact, a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent simply by the term that they lease or sublease to a private tenant. So again, it goes to the competencies. I can explain it to you, but I cannot comprehend it for you. I cannot understand it for you. I can explain it to you. Explain. It is plain to me. In order for me to plainly express it to you, I can press it to you, but if you don't take the impression, then that's up for you to discern. And again, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to do your research so you know. That is discernment. Otherwise, you push your beliefs as a legal determination. You're making false legal determinations as I am trying to correct a record. And that is interference with a federal investigation. And again, that would be on you. For destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations and bankruptcies. That federal investigation was initiated upon the informant, mom, who signed the birth certificate or the certificate of live birth registration statement at the local hospital. Another military installation inland. Whoever knowingly, after I gave them information that it is not domestic, and by telling me that it is domestic, that would be an alteration of my directive to communicate through diplomatic channels of notice and not domestic channels of notice. Alters, destroys, mutilates, conceals, covers up, falsifies, or makes a false entry into any record. False entry of a sovereign citizen claiming that the trust, the Keith Orland Little faith-based union trust, is operating as a sovereign citizen. Document or tangible object with the intent to impede. I told you it is not domestic. It is international, and you, by your legal determination, without the license to practice law, are in fact impeding and causing me harm and detriment in these matters of trying to correct a record that is already causing harm and injury plainly and blatantly by the patent. False bench warrant issued by a local municipal agent. Obstruct or influence the investigation or proper administration of any matter within the jurisdiction of any department or agency of the United States or any case filed under Title 11. Judicial officer, the Judicial Office Department is a neutral, independent forum within the United States Postal Service, and they are not allowing me access to the judicial officer. They are biased in their legal determinations and are not allowing me communication with the proper department. It cannot get any simpler, and it comprises of the judicial officer. The Office of Administrative Law Judges who issued the false bench warrant, and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals saying that there's a lease in the record showing that I am a resident under false entry into a record that they have no business in. You are not organized to conduct such business as a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent, as deemed necessary by the board. Title 32, National Defense. Other regulations relating to national defense. Selective service. My service that I select is international. You refuse to allow me to select my service as a man with a selective service number for that military installation. Definitions. And the only definition there is 1602 area office. The Selective Service Office, which is responsible for all administrative and operational support for the one or more local boards within its jurisdiction. And that office is the Judicial Officer Department, a neutral, independent forum within the United States Postal Service comprised of the Judicial Officer, the Office of Administrative Law Judges. And this is what they're denying me. The right to Administrative Law Office correction of the records and the Postal Service Board of Contract Appeals. They are not allowing me to go above their boards and subjecting me to a local bench warrant where they will arrest me to put me before that false administrative law judge. I don't know how sick and tired you guys are getting in this stuff, but I am. I'm getting very disgusted with it. You guys know I love you, and I don't give a fuck whether you love me back. So think about this stuff and be blessed. I'll make the edits. The links will be down below. Have a good day. We'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock with some more information. Have a good day.